I mean, is there a single reason to be optimistic, really, boys? That's your take. Let me know in the comments. If I were a Welsh fan, I would be hoping for a miracle on Saturday. If I were a Springbok fan, I mean, I am a Springbok fan. I love the Springboks. But if I were South African, I'd be thinking more about, can we test the young players? Can we see what these guys can do under pressure? Can we see, who's the reserve, which reserve player is actually going to be part of the squad, maybe for New Zealand or for the World Cup next year? But beyond the scoreline, what does this match tell us? Why are we even playing this match is something I wanted to discuss. Why are South Africa playing Wales? Has this been decided sort of 5 years ago when Wales were really still competitive? Or is there something I'm not aware of? Because I don't think Wales should be playing South Africa. Wales played Fiji, that was a good game. They actually did okay in Argentina. They did okay. I think that Argentina didn't play well. I think that it could have been a lot worse if Argentina really went guns blazing. But Wales in Durban against South Africa, I'd much rather see England go again or France go again. Well, we'll go for the first time. I'd much rather see Ireland play South Africa. Then I'd be hyped for Saturday. Right now, it's more of a quote-unquote training game. And I want to see if there's any way, I want to talk to you guys about the fact that, is there any way that this could go wrong for South Africa? Arguably, the fact that they're playing an unexperienced number 10, some new players, some players that I haven't really seen before, such as Yeko Williams. I've seen him play for the Sharks. I haven't seen Vusi Moyo play for the Sharks, but anyway. Is there any way that it could go wrong? The first thing I think of is Wales are, you could kind of say they're on a high in the sense that they beat Japan, then they beat Italy in the Six Nations, they beat Fiji, and they did a good game against Argentina. So they're going to come to South Africa, obviously knowing that it could go really wrong and that they lost 0-73 at home on their own soil last year. But that they're aware that Rassie Erasmus has fielded a weaker side. They're aware that if there's one time in their life where they could run South Africa close in this quote-unquote generation, right? Because they beat South Africa in 22. Not many teams have beaten South Africa in the last few years, and Wales did somehow. That was a really tight series, actually, a well-fought series. I'm looking back at it. That was 4 years ago, and you're telling me that Wales deservedly actually beat South Africa in the second test and then lost in the third. But they played well. It was a good game. Wales have to play like Scotland did. They have to play a brand of rugby that is exciting, disorganised, and they have to go for the wing. They have to go for the hit the number 10 hard, try and play where they've got a bit more space. Wales can be dangerous when you give them a bit of space. I'm pretty sure they'll play that kind of offloading game. They're going to try and break the line and offload. They would be stupid to try and match the box physically and try and destroy them in the rucks, etc. That is not how you beat the Springboks. You can't beat a Springbok, front on. They're gonna win. Like the South Africa can't, go back on the impact. They're not gonna accept that for very long anyway. So the only way that Wales can win is if they play like Fiji do, really, and just hope that it works. Even if they play like that, they're not likely to win. But there's one way to lose by 50 points is to try and beat South Africa physically. Try and, maul them, try and, contest the rucks all the time. I think that's going to result in them getting very tired, and actually they're going to be quite weak on the counter-attack and when South Africa play it wide. What's the point of this game? For South Africa anyway, it's to test some new guys, right? It's to see if, pulling in some youngsters from the U20 sides and players that many people haven't heard of is still going to make South Africa win. Rassie always says that he's not interested in the scoreline, which is, for me, a load of cack. Of course he is. All right, there's no way that South Africa would lose by 20 points and he'd still say that, he's happy with the boys. No. South Africa need to win. They're going to win. And mark my words, right? I mean, I would be stunned if I'm not correct with this one. I'm just wondering how close it will be. I'm wondering if Wales will get anything out of this game. South African fans watching this, you shouldn't be scared. You're not scared. I think you're just wondering if it's going to be by 60 or by 140. Look, my prediction for this game, before I talk about a few other things, is South Africa should score about 50 or 60 in Durban. But Wales, I think, might score 20 or 25. So who knows? I think it's going to be high scoring. This isn't a game where any team is going to kick for the post, I believe, unless Wales kick first. The times where the Boks have been more susceptible to losing a game is when they're trailing. It doesn't mean that they will lose, but when South Africa are chasing the score somehow, it's just a little bit more difficult for them. They have made mistakes in the past when they were chasing a score. What's my most recent example? Well, I mean, they were leading against Australia, but then when Australia were leading, South Africa's the way that they played was completely flawed. They completely lost it, and Australia scored another 2 or 3 tries and actually ended up winning by 16 points, which is unheard of really last year. Where else were they trailing? Against France in the World Cup, that was a kind of a back and forth game. It's not a great example. Who were they trailing to recently? Well, I mean, they were trailing against the All Blacks on the first game of the Rugby Championship last year. Let's not talk about the second game. That was a blowout. Wow. The only way I could see Wales doing something is if they get points on the board first, right, or soon. The scenario where Wales are somehow winning 6-0 after 15 minutes could be an interesting one. If South Africa are winning 14-0, Wales will not kick for the post, so they will go for touch. And that means that they might not score, and if they do, then South Africa will score immediately after. That's one thing that South Africa do well, is that if you score against them, they'll get you back twice immediately after. That's the only way I see Wales potentially being able to get anywhere near the Boks. Not that they will, but if there's one way that they could, is that if they try and get points on the board soon, even 3-0, 6-0, getting a try in, as long as they're within touching distance at half-time. I think for Wales, if they get in close, like as in they lose by 20 points, they'll be happy. They know how unlikely they are to win. I think Wales is more sort of their goal on Saturday's game will be to just see if they can actually just play rugby without being embarrassed. If they can have a game that's, even if they lose, that was fairly fought. Where after 80 minutes, it's like, okay, well, South Africa won 36-24. It was a good game. We lost, but not something... Wales will be doing everything, I believe, to not lose 73-0. How are South Africa going to play? I haven't quite been able to read through Rassie's plans. They're gonna obviously be physical, but I think they want to try stuff with a new number 10, with a new number 14. Will they try stuff like they did against Italy last year? Sort of the pass it in the air more. Imagine they do that again. The kick, the drop goal to start the game that only goes 3 meters, and immediately scrum against Wales. Wales will be cautious that if they play this Fiji type rugby and they make a few knock-ons, that it's basically going to be a penalty for South Africa because they're going to lose the scrum after. So yeah, I mean, look, if you're a Bok fan or you're a Welsh fan watching this, how do you see this game going? And do you agree that maybe this game is almost useless? Wouldn't you rather have Wales maybe play against Argentina again, or Australia? How about Australia-Wales? Wouldn't that be a good game? Australia-Italy will be a good game, I can guarantee you that. And how about or Japan-Wales? Why aren't France playing in South Africa? Why do they keep playing France? Why do France only play South Africa at home? Anyway, man, I wish I could run rugby myself. I'd make it such a better sport. And I'm not trying to be arrogant here. I just think that, I get along well with some of you guys in the comments. I think we agree that, we share some different points of view. Now there is South Africa, New Zealand. I get it. But I just don't quite see the hype around South Africa, Wales, especially as South Africa are kind of seeing this as a game to try things out, which they probably wouldn't do if France were touring. I can tell you that. If France were touring, we'd see the likes of Khaleesi back in, Etzebeth, Snyman, Van Staden, all the players that typically play for the A team, Sasha, Reinek. What about what's the other number 9 that plays for the Lions? Morne van den Berg. I quite like him. He was brilliant for the Lions this year. I'd like to see him play a bit more. I really like the guy. I think he's quite good. I like Quan Horn also. I like Horn. No. Bear with me, guys. 2 seconds. Number 8 of the Lions. An absolute tank of a guy. Frankie Horn. He's South African, right? That's a South African name. Is he too old? Is he not good enough? I love the guy. I think he's so good. Actually, the Lions this year played better than the Sharks did. They played very well. Why are there not more players playing for the Lions, playing for the Boks? Is it just because of the status of the Lions that they're just always going to be that kind of fourth tier team. The team that's just, you know, not considered seriously by the box. I don't know, guys. Food for thought. I look forward to the game because I think that it won't be. I don't think South Africa will win by such a big margin. When I say such a big margin, I'm talking like I think they're going to win by 20 to 30 points. It could be worse, but I don't think it will necessarily be worse. I think that it will be an interesting game, and I wish it will be. I think it would be terrible for Wales if they lose 56-0, and it wouldn't be much of a purpose for South Africa to win 56-0. How about, you know, it's tied at half time and Rassie's sort of making some choices. It'd be good to see South Africa be under pressure again, just having to make some calculated decisions, because they haven't felt under pressure in a while, I feel. I mean, against Australia and New Zealand last year when they lost in the Rugby Championship. They lost against Argentina, but that wasn't last year, right? That was the year before that. That was quite a crazy game too. Anyway, guys, I'm looking forward for this weekend. It's going to be great. I look forward to Australia, Italy. I look forward to New Zealand, Ireland. I will be up early. Where is it? The alarm clock will be on. I actually fucking burnt my wrist with the candle there. Anyway, you don't care about that. Have a good rest of your Thursday. It's such a pleasure, guys. We did hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm very grateful. You know, I mean, I do this channel for fun. I've got no intent really behind this channel except producing some rugby content and sharing love around rugby. And you guys watching, most of you are very respectful, very entertaining in the comment section. So keep it that way. And it was a pleasure. See you later.